with special guest President Donald J. Trump and candidate for Washington's 3rd Congressional District, Joe Kent. My name is Lindy, and I'll be your moderator this evening. It is now my pleasure to introduce Joe Kent.
Well, hey, everybody in Washington's 3rd Congressional District and throughout the country. I really appreciate you tuning in, and it is my great honor for me to be able to introduce someone who is a personal inspiration to me, and I think to so many of us. President Trump has been fighting for the American people, fighting for America first, since he first came onto the stage. I first met President Trump on the worst day of my life after my late wife was killed fighting ISIS in Syria, 1 month after he tried to get our troops out of that endless war, and that's what President Trump was doing. That's what the America First movement is all about. He was trying to get us out of the endless wars. He was making our country safe and strong and putting our people first. And that's what this movement's all about. They came after President Trump so hard, not because of him, but because he was representing us. He was putting us in the room and in the deal. And so it's my great honor to pick up that torch here in Washington's 3rd Congressional District against Jamie Herrera Butler, who not only voted for President Trump's impeachment, but also has voted against the American people every single step of the way. So I'm honored to have all of your support, and it is my great honor to introduce the 45th President of the United States of America and the 46th and probably the 47th President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. You're terrific. And hello, Washington. I'd like to talk to you about a very critical, important election, and primaries are taking place, as you know, right now. And this is a primary election. It's on Tuesday, August 2nd, and early voting is already underway. So you can do it now or you can wait till Tuesday. But it's so important to get out and vote for Joe Kent in Washington's 3rd Congressional District. He's outstanding. We'll talk about it right now. I first met Joe at Dover Air Force Base, and that was a rough day for everybody. But it was a day where his beloved wife, a fallen warrior, was being brought back home from the Middle East, where she had been laid down and her life was taken from her in defense of our nation. And she was an incredible person and a warrior, very much like Joe. I was incredibly impressed. I spoke to Joe for a long while. I said, I see this man, good-looking guy, strong guy, and I talked, I waited. I didn't even know at the time that Joe was waiting for that reason. He explained why he was there, and I said, wow. But after about a half hour, I actually looked at him. Maybe I had something to do. I said, you know what? You ought to run someday. You ought to run for office in honor of your wife. And that's what he's done. He's a retired Green Beret, a tough cookie with a big, fat, beautiful heart, and he's a Gold Star husband. And Joe Kent is the only candidate in the race that has my total endorsement. He is my complete and total, as I sometimes say, endorsement. And others are trying to say that they have my endorsement, and they absolutely don't. I don't even know him. Joe's opponent in this primary is a rhino congresswoman named Jamie Herrera Butler. She doesn't fight for your state. She's not a respected person in Congress. She fights for the Washington swamp, not for the Washington state. And she's thrown her lot in with the fake Republicans like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who she's best friends with Cheney and Kinzinger, if you can believe it. Those are her two friends. She voted for the radical Democrat second impeachment hoax, where the Republicans stood up tall for me, but she didn't. She was one of 10 people. And she played right into the hands of the left-wing extremists who used her vote to fare thee well. They talk about it, and they still talk about it. This election day, you really need to throw out the terrible rhino that we have right now and replace her with a warrior, a hero, a great gentleman. I think he's going to go on to tremendous things, and he'll be your next congressman. Joe will fight to end the radical Democrat socialist spending spree, which is exactly what they're on, between Green New Deal and all the other nonsense that's going to put our country out of business, and stop runaway inflation. Joe will stop. He'll help us all to stop this runaway inflation. We had no inflation. We had the greatest economy that we've ever had. We rebuilt our military. We rebuilt and took care of our vets like they've never been taken care of before. We just got a 93% approval rating on the vets. Nobody's ever had anything within 30 points. He'll vote, Joe will vote to end the invasion at our southern border. That's an invasion. That's like a war coming into our country. Stop all illegal immigration once and for all unless they are allowed to come in legally. He'll fully protect our First Amendment and our Second Amendment, which is totally under siege, guns, and he will support our military and our vets at a level that nobody else will be there for, and he knows it better than anybody else. Also, he's very, very strong on law and order. He will not be a defunder of our police. That I can tell you. He'll be the exact opposite. Joe is right to life, and as you know, we had a great decision. Ronald Reagan tried. They all tried. We just had a great decision, and actually 4 great decisions from the Supreme Court, and that was done through some very smart choices. And as you know, Ronald Reagan tried. A lot of people tried, and nobody could get any of it done. We had a great also, by the way, environmental decision, a decision on the Second Amendment, and various other decisions that nobody thought would be possible to get. And the decisions based on conservative, but really maybe even more important, the decisions based on common sense. Joe will vote to ban critical race theory, which is nonsense, and he will defend parents' rights and keep men out of women's sports. We are not going to have men playing women's sports. So unfair and so disrespectful to women. Finally, Joe will not rest until we ensure free, fair, and honest elections. The election was a disgrace, and everyone knows it, and it's come out. I guess 78% of a large group of people are saying the election was a travesty to our country. You can't have a country if you don't have fair elections and strong borders, and we don't have borders. We have millions of people pouring into our country, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. So we don't have borders and we don't have fair elections. Once again, early voting is underway right now, and Election Day is August 2nd. This is one of the most important votes we have going on Tuesday in our whole country. So Joe Kent is outstanding. You'll never have another chance like this one. He is just a great gentleman, a great man, and he's going to do a fantastic job for Washington. So thank you, everybody, for being on, and I will see you soon. And, Joe, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It was a great honor to have you have your full and complete endorsement. So thank you, everybody who tuned in. I'm getting ready to head right to a town hall here in Napavine up in Lewis County. So come out and see us. We're doing town halls pretty much every night of the week. Hope to see you out on the campaign trail very soon. I'm going to hand it over real briefly to Matt.
Hey, I'm going to hand it back to Joe in a moment, but I want to share a very short briefing on the state of the campaign here. My name is Matt Brainerd, and I work on the nuts and bolts side of the campaign. As has been mentioned, the Republican D.C. establishment, not the Democrats, the Republican D.C. establishment are dumping what looks like it's going to end up being around $3 million in dark money super PAC cash to try to defeat Joe in just the last 2 weeks. This is unprecedented. In fact, they're actually operating illegally. They're ignoring the FEC requirement to disclose their donors because the only penalty for this is a fine, and they don't care. So this race is extremely expensive, not only because we're facing $3 million in dark money attack ads going after Joe and another $4 million from Jamie Butler and her spoiler candidate in the race, but this is a state with universal mail-in ballots. The result is that a lot more people here vote in primaries than they do in primaries in almost any other state, So rather than us having to, say, mail 20,000 households, we have to mail over 100,000 households. This drives up the cost of texting, phones, the digital program, the field program. Now, unlike Jamie, we don't have any super PACs or corporate money coming in to rescue us. All we have is you. So please help us finish strong by making a contribution to our campaign at joekentforcongress.com. Now I'll turn it over to the man I'm honored to work for, Joe Kent.
Thank you very much, Matt. And thank all of you for being a part of this. I just want to really emphasize that this election right here in Washington 3, we are at the forefront of the civil war for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. The establishment is coming in so hard because they want Jamie Butler and Republicans like her to be the red wave that we have here in November. And we know what that will result in. That will result in Republicans who refuse to fight the progressive left and the Democrats. Republicans winning elections has been happening since Richard Nixon took office. We've won more elections than we've lost, and in that course of time, we've lost across the country. So we have to have America first fighters. The establishment's doing everything they can to keep us, the hardworking men and women of this country, the deplorables, to keep us out of Washington, D.C. But with your support and with the support of President Trump, we are going to be able to take back this district, and that's how we start to take back our country. So it's a great honor for me to be a part of this movement. It's a great honor to serve all of you, and thank you so much for being out here. I will hopefully see you on the campaign trail. Please go to joekentforcongress.com to learn about where I'll be throughout the district. So thank you very much, and God bless.
Okay, thank you, Joe. This is Matt Brainerd again. I'll wrap up this call by sharing something that I've learned about Joe that very few people know. I've gotten to know Joe, and some of the other campaign staff have gotten to know really well over the last year and a half we've been running. And there isn't another candidate that works as hard as him in the country. Every night he's doing a town hall. We're over 200 of them now. Every day he's on doors or on the phone. And he spent his career as enlisted in the military. So he never got rich, but that hasn't stopped him from putting his life savings, about $300,000, into this campaign. And the thing I want to share with you about Joe is that throughout all of this, he has never complained. Not once. So again, I want to ask you to dig deep and please give what you can to help us fight back against the torrent of slime from the D.C. establishment that's trying to destroy him. Please help us with a donation of whatever you can afford at joekentforcongress.com. And if you're a voter in the district, please return your ballot for Joe Kent as soon as possible so that come January, when Joe Kent raises his hand and takes that oath of office, you'll know that you did your part in helping make Congressman Joe Kent. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and God bless.